Seams and Scars by Dana Lurie Shaw.
How came you to Ionia, friend? Murmat tried to keep her voice light. She had never felt uncomfortable sharing a campfire with other travelers along the road to the markets before. This, however, marked her first time sitting across the flames from an auction, one with an enormous weapon sheathed across her back. How many Ionian lives had that blade claimed, she wondered. The white-haired woman glanced at her. "Father," before swallowing a mouthful of charred pepper and rice, then cast her eyes down at her plate. "I was born in Noxus," she said, her accent thick, but her tonality nearly flawless. "I have not been back since the war, and I do not plan to return." The Noxian's father, Asa Conte, smiled and placed his hand on her shoulder. "This is her home now," he said with finality. Murmat had invited Asa to make camp with her before she had spotted the Noxian asleep in the back of his cart. He had introduced her as his daughter, Riven, in this same tone, with his chin jutted forward in preemptive defense. Murmat hadn't pushed back against the strange old man's declaration then, but that didn't mean his daughter was beyond scrutiny. "You have not answered my question," Murmat pressed. The chimes of her mended necklace clinged together as she poured herself a cup of tea. "What brought you to our shores, Riven?" Riven tightly gripped her plate. Tension rippled through her shoulders. "I fought in the war." A simple statement, blended with sorrow. Curious to hear regret from an Noxian. "Why did you stay?" Murmat asked. "Why would anyone stay in a place that their people have caused so much pain, so much destruction?" Crack! The plate had broken in half in River's white-knuckle grip, her charred pepper and rice falling to the ground. With a gasp, she dropped the plate shards before bowing ruefully. "My deepest apology," she mumbled as she rose. "I will pay for this plate, and then we will leave you to your evening. I didn't mean to intrude." But Murmat wasn't listening. Instead, she cradled the broken plate in her hand and held the shard to her ear, humming softly. Slowly, she adjusted her pitch, calling to the spirit within the clay. The back of her skull tinkled when she hit the right tone as the spirit reverberated with her hum. Holding the note, Murmat lifted her necklace and flickered its charm until she found the one that joined her with the spirit in song. She stared at the charm in the firelight. Each one had been inscribed with a symbol that identified how to mend a resonant spirit. This symbol was for smoke, a single line with a curve that became more pronounced towards the end. Murmat lifted the shards above the fire to bathe them in smoke. It took only moments before they knitted back together, with only a few coal-colored seams and rigid to show the plate had ever been broken. "I'm a mender," she said as she held the pottery out to a wide-eyed Riven. "No need to replace anything." Riven took the plate and examined it. "How does it work?" she asked, running a finger down a thick black seam. "Everything has a spirit, and every spirit wants to be whole. I ask them what they need to mend, and give it to them." "It leaves scars," Riven sighed. "Scars are a sign of healing. The plate will never be seamless again, but it is whole, and it is strong. I'd even say it's more beautiful like this." Riven considered the plate in silence. "I am still here," she said after a moment. "Because I have caused so much pain and so much destruction, I stay to atone." Murmat nodded somberly. Clearly, Riven's scars, though invisible, ran deep. Perhaps this Noxian was different from the others. But Murmat's eyes fell on the hilt of Riven's massive weapon, a tool for cutting, not mending. How different can she really be? Murmat woke bleary-eyed to a loud thump against the side of her caravan. Bandits. Riven had insisted on keeping watch through the night, Murmat remembered as she grabbed her heaviest kettle, but the mender was experienced in dealing with robbers and could always hold her own in a fight. When she opened her door, however, she saw Riven would not need her help after all. One of the intruders lay crumpled at the foot of the caravan. By the fire stood Riven, surrounded by 3 hulking bandits. She held the enormous hilt, and Murmat was surprised to see only a broken blade attached to the end. Yet, the weapon was still formidable. It seemed to pose in Riven's hand as she waited for the others to advance. Murmat's stomach turned to see the blade, not relishing the sight of a Noxian spilling more Ionian blood, but still she watched. The bandits rushed at Riven, yelling incoherently. but she took a single step forward and repulsed them with a burst of energy from her blade. They dropped their weapon, scrambled to find them in the dark. Riven could have cut them all down, Murmat realized, but she didn't. Instead, she raised her sword, which began to glow an eerie green. The magic from the weapon blasted outward and repelled one of the bandits as soon as it touched him. He fell to the ground in a catatonic daze. By this point, the others were on their feet, weapons in hand. Riven brought her arm back, and glowing pieces of metal raced towards the Noxian from the card. The shards formed around the blade, making it look almost whole, though there were still gaps between the pieces. The bandits rushed her again. Or so they tried. Riven whipped the blade in front of her and blew them back against the caravan with a sudden gust of wind, knocking them all unconscious. A bloodless victory. Murmat stepped gently over the defeated bandits. "What will you do with them?" she asked Riven, who had barely broken a sweat. Riven shrugged, letting the shards of her sword drop to the ground. "I'll just tie them to a tree until morning." Murmat stared at the remnant of the blade. It didn't seem threatening anymore, now that she had seen how Riven wielded it. "Could I see your weapon?" Riven frowned and took a step back. "Why?" "You don't need to hand it to me, just hold it up." Warily, Riven raised the blade. Murmat closed her eyes and hummed. "What are you doing?" Riven asked in alarm, just as Murmat found the right pitch.
A pair of eyes searching. 3 hunters, hearts filled with hate, thoughts of revenge. Burning. Everything burning.
Murmat didn't realize she had fallen until she felt Riven shake her. "Are you alright?" "Someone," Murmat whispered, her throat dry, "is searching for this blade. For you." Riven blanched, but her eyes revealed nothing of her thoughts. "What did you do, Murmat?" she asked in a low whisper. "I was wrong to question you. I wanted to offer my apologies by mending your sword." "No!" The intensity of the word took Murmat by surprise. "If you truly want to thank me, you will never fix this blade." Riven chuckled, a bitter sound. "The one thing I would want you to fix, you can't. But thank you for the offer." She sighed, exhausted, and collected up the shards of her sword. "You should go back to sleep if you want to get to the marketplace early tomorrow." Murmat nodded and slowly made her way to a caravan. When she looked back, Riven was at the fire, sitting and watching the night. Not for the last time, Murmat wished she knew how to mend people. That concludes the story Seams and Scars by Dana Lurie Shao. This story referenced Sisterhood of War Part 1 and 2, where they're searching for Riven and the blade. That's what Murmat could see when she tried to mend the blade. The eyes were probably Tifalingi, the runesmith, and the 3 people filled with hate is probably Merit, Errol and Tenef, 3 of Riven's sisters in war in the first invasion of Ionia, where they thought Riven died, but now they know and are looking for her. This story is of course also after The Confession of a Broken Blade Part 1, 2 and 3. And to be honest, Ionia is getting a lot of cool lore right now, but that's probably because Lilia is about to be released and the next story on this channel will be her bio. So, until next time, enjoy.